You would think that that means absolutely nothing. You would think it means nothing, right? Refs couldn't stop us, elite bench mob. It wasn't for the lack of trying. Glad they're having fun and celebrating like no other teams. Will she get fined for saying that? Yeah, she got fined. She got fined for saying refs can't stop.
What happens when a league finds its brightest star for celebrating her team's success? This is the story of how a simple social media post sparked one of the biggest controversies in recent WNBA history, revealing the growing tension between a new generation of athletes and the establishment trying to govern them. When Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever rookie who has taken the basketball world by storm, found herself facing an unexpected fine from the WNBA, she didn't back down quietly. Instead, she turned a $200 penalty into a rallying cry that would expose the complex relationship between players and the league that employs them.
Clark has responded to being fined by the...
What began as a playful comment would soon evolve into a full-blown discussion about player expression, officiating consistency, and the future of women's basketball itself. This isn't just another sports story about a minor league infraction. What we're about to explore goes much deeper than that, touching on issues of power, control, and the very identity of a league experiencing unprecedented growth. The incident would pull back the curtain on the challenges facing the WNBA as it navigates its skyrocketing popularity, largely driven by charismatic stars like Clark, who bring new energy and new expectations to the game. As we piece together exactly what happened, you'll discover how a few words on social media ignited a firestorm that players, coaches, and fans are still talking about weeks later. Before we dive deeper into this unfolding drama, if you're passionate about sports stories that go beyond the scoreboard and explore the real human conflict behind the games, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming coverage.
Clark stated, got fined $200 for this. LOL. Bench mob will be even more rowdy tomorrow. Let's go. At Indiana Fever.
The controversy began in the aftermath of a crucial playoff victory. The Indiana Fever had just secured a dominant win over the Atlanta Dream in Game 2 of the first round of the WNBA playoffs. The energy at Gainbridge Fieldhouse was electric, with both the Indiana bench and home fans practically all on their feet as they secured a 77-60 victory to even the series. In today's sports world, such moments inevitably spill over onto social media, and this game was no exception. The official Indiana Fever team account posted celebratory photos of the team's bench celebrating during their Game 2 victory, with the caption, "The bench was rockin' tonight." It was beneath this post that Caitlin Clark, though sidelined with groin injury, decided to join the celebration digitally. She responded with two comments, "Elite bench mob," and what would become a controversial statement, "Refs couldn't stop us." At first glance, the comment seemed harmless, a player hyping up her teammates after an important playoff win. But to the WNBA league office, those four words cross an invisible line. The league has long had rules prohibiting public criticism of officiating, and Clark's comment was deemed a violation of these regulations.
I'm pretty sure she just said the refs can't stop them celebrating. This isn't even her going at refs. It's literally like if you say the word refs and you're an Indiana Fever player, you're going to get fined. If you say the word refs as a Fever player, the word referees has to be spoken, cannot be said by an Indiana Fever player, otherwise it's a fine.
While the WNBA doesn't typically publicize player fines, Clark soon revealed that she had been hit with a $200 penalty for her social media remark. The timing was particularly interesting. Clark was already out for the playoffs due to injury, yet the league still felt the need to penalize her commentary. This detail wouldn't go unnoticed by fans and analysts who questioned whether the same standard would have been applied to a less prominent player. The stage was set for a confrontation that would extend far beyond the basketball court. When most players receive a fine from their league, they might grumble privately or issue a carefully worded apology through their publicist. Caitlin Clark took a different approach, one that would turn a minor disciplinary action into a major story. Instead of quietly accepting the penalty, Clark went public with it on her X account, formerly Twitter, sharing the news with her millions of followers in a way that completely reframed the narrative. Got fined $200 for this LOL, Clark announced, adding multiple crying laughing emojis for emphasis. But she didn't stop there. In what would become a signature moment of defiance, she added, "Bench mob will be even more rowdy tomorrow, let's go." The message was clear. Not only was she not sorry, but the fine had actually energized her and her teammates further.
If she got fined for, celebrating on the floor, that's even worse. But the word referee was spoken by an Indiana Fever player, therefore they get fined. Like, it is mad.
Rather than being chastened by the league's punishment, she was doubling down on the very enthusiasm that had prompted the fine in the first place. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Clark's tweet quickly went viral, amassing millions of views within hours and sparking thousands of reactions from fans, fellow players, and sports commentators. The tone of the responses overwhelmingly favored Clark, with many viewers expressing amusement at the relatively small fine amount and skepticism about the league's decision to penalize what appeared to be a harmless expression of team spirit. What made Clark's response particularly effective was its timing and delivery. By sharing the news herself, complete with laughing emojis, she controlled the narrative from the beginning. The incident became less about a player being disciplined and more about a league potentially overreaching.
Money well spent. Turns up them demons. CC said that little $200 ain't ish. She spent more than that a week on groceries. They are ridiculous for finding you. And me personally, I feel like they're definitely ridiculous for finding her over that, over a post. For one, don't feel you know she said it unless she told her.
During practice ahead of Game 1 against Las Vegas, Clark even shouted to reporters from across the gym, "Hey everybody, go look at my tweet." This demonstrated her comfort with the attention the situation was generating and her unwillingness to treat the fine as something to be ashamed of. In any sports controversy, the response from a player's teammates can often reveal much about the locker room dynamics at play. In this case, Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever teammates quickly rallied to her defense, amplifying the story and adding another layer to the growing narrative. The most prominent show of support came from fellow Fever player Sophie Cunningham, who herself was no stranger to WNBA fines for speaking her mind. Cunningham reposted Clark's tweet about the fine with a joking addition. "That's gonna really break the bank for her. Starting a GoFundMe now." The comment highlighted what many observers had already noted, that a $200 fine was essentially meaningless for a player of Clark's stature, especially when considering her significant endorsement deals beyond her WNBA salary.
It's silly, bro. It was a damn Instagram post. Y'all find her over an Instagram post. Somebody said this league is so unserious. Maybe if they actually invested in getting better referees and holding them accountable, people wouldn't complain as much. They should probably look into that. $200 is hilarious, man. I can cover that ish for you.
Cunningham's reference to Clark's financial situation underscored the seeming pointlessness of the penalty, while simultaneously showing solidarity between the teammates. The GoFundMe joke quickly took on a life of its own, with fans enthusiastically embracing the concept and offering to contribute to such a fund if it were actually created. This response highlighted the connection between players and fans in the social media age, where inside jokes can quickly become public phenomena. Cunningham's willingness to publicly support Clark also signaled that this wasn't just about one player's disagreement with the league. It reflected a broader sentiment among players. Interestingly, Cunningham herself had recently experienced a surge in social media popularity following an on-court incident, gaining nearly 1 million new followers across platforms in just days. This context added depth to her support of Clark, as both players were navigating complexities of fame in an increasingly visible league. Their solidarity highlighted how WNBA players are leveraging social media to control their narratives and connect directly with fans, bypassing traditional media and even league communications.
These players don't care anymore about this. Not that they don't care. They don't care anymore about the way they're perceived in this league, because they know they can do everything right. They can do everything perfect. They can do everything to promote the league. And the people that hate them are still going to hate them. Or they can do whatever the hell they want. They can go and compete, and they can actually help improve the league. They can actually help improve the league by, winning and continuing to boost huge numbers.
To fully understand why Clark's comment resonated so deeply, we need to examine the context of officiating during the Fever's playoff series against the Atlanta Dream. The first-round matchup had been particularly physical, with officiating becoming a point of contention for both teams throughout the series. The numbers tell part of the story. At least 36 fouls were called in each game, including 43 in Game 1 alone. This consistent whistle blowing created a stop-start rhythm that many observers felt detracted from the flow of the game. The concerns about officiating extended far beyond Clark's social media comment. Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White had used both of her challenges early in Game 1 to overturn calls against Lexi Hull and Aaliyah Boston. Her frustration with the officiating eventually led to her drawing a technical foul for protesting a non-call in the fourth quarter. On the other side, Atlanta Dream coach Carl Smesko also voiced frustration after Game 3, claiming referees missed his timeout request just before Hull's game-sealing steal. The officiating was so noticeable that it drew comments from around the league, including from Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon, who will be facing the Fever in the next round. Hammon didn't hold back in her assessment. It was a football match. There were bodies flying the whole time. Quite frankly, it made for very ugly basketball, and I think that's something the league's got to take a look at. She further emphasized the skill of the players, suggesting that the physical nature of the games was detracting from their talents. Hammond's criticism went even further when she stated, "Some of the hits that I saw in the Atlanta-Indiana game, if that happened off the court, you'd be facing serious consequences. But on a WNBA court, it's nothing to see here." This strong language from a respected coach around the league added credibility to the notion that officiating had been inconsistent at best during the series. Given this context, Clark's comment about referees not being able to stop them appeared less like baseless criticism and more like an observation shared by many close observers of the series. The controversy surrounding Clark's fine touched on much larger issues facing the WNBA, issues that extend far beyond a single social media post or playoff series. At its core, the incident highlighted the growing tension between the league experiencing unprecedented growth and the players driving that growth. To fully appreciate why this seemingly minor story generated such significant attention, we need to examine the broader landscape of the WNBA in 2025. One of the most significant underlying issues is the ongoing negotiation between the WNBA and the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, for a new collective bargaining agreement. Earlier in the season, WNBA players had worn shirts bearing the message, "Pay us what you owe us," during warm-ups, signaling their dissatisfaction with the current economic structure. The fact that these negotiations were happening concurrently with the playoff series added political weight to Clark's fine. The financial disparities in the league are striking. While the WNBA's revenue has jumped significantly from $102 million in 2019 to between $180 million and $200 million in 2023, player compensation hasn't kept pace. As one analysis highlighted, WNBA players make less than 10% of league revenue, which is considered a relatively low figure for a professional sports organization. To put this in perspective, the owners of the WNBA's Golden State Valkyries and NBA's Golden State Warriors pay 37-year-old Stephen Curry nearly $60 million annually, while the entire Valkyries roster earns barely $1 million combined. These financial realities provided important context for the $200 fine. While meaningless to Clark personally, given her significant endorsement income, the amount represented a more substantial percentage of the base salary for many WNBA players. This dichotomy highlighted the strange position of the league stars, who often make far more from endorsements than from their actual team salaries. The fine also came at a time when the league was enjoying increased visibility, with broadcast rights growing from zero in 2002 to approximately $60 million annually, a figure set to increase to $200 million as part of a combined deal with the NBA. As if the fine controversy wasn't enough drama, the situation was complicated by the Indiana Fever's mounting injury problems as they advanced in the playoffs. Caitlin Clark herself was sidelined with a right groin injury that had kept her out of the postseason entirely. But she wasn't alone. The Fever's roster was decimated by injuries at the worst possible time, adding another layer to the story of their playoff run. In addition to Clark, fellow Fever players Sophie Cunningham, Chloe BBY, and Sydney Carlson were also unavailable due to various injuries. To make matters worse, Tammy Fagbendel was stuck in concussion protocol, missing her fourth straight game. This meant that as the Fever prepared to face the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals, they were doing so without several key players who had contributed to their success throughout the season. The team that took the court against the Aces was a shadow of the roster that had competed during the regular season. This injury crisis created a strange dynamic for Clark's fine situation. Here was a player being disciplined for comments made about games she couldn't even participate in due to injury. The irony wasn't lost on observers. Clark was contributing to team morale from the sidelines in the only way she could, yet still found herself facing league discipline. Her bench mob comments took on additional meaning, given that so many regular players were now effectively part of that bench mob due to injuries. The injuries also heightened the underdog narrative surrounding the Fever's playoff run. already the number 6 seed facing the number 3 seed Atlanta Dream in the first round. The Fever were now heading into a semifinal series against the powerhouse Las Vegas Aces with a depleted roster. In this context, Clark's comments about the referees not being able to stop them seemed less like arrogance and more like defiance in the face of mounting obstacles, both on and off the court. In the days and weeks following the fine incident, the story continued to reverberate around the WNBA and beyond. The Indiana Fever advanced to face the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals, though they would ultimately fall to the powerhouse team. But the discussion about player expression, league authority, and the future of the WNBA continued long after the final buzzer sounded on the season. One immediate impact was the attention drawn to the WNBA's fine structure and its approach to disciplining players for comments about officiating. The fact that this was the second known instance of a player or coach being disciplined for such comments during the 2025 postseason. Golden State Valkyries coach Natalie Nakes had also been fined for calling the refereeing unfair in their Game 1 loss to Minnesota, suggested a pattern of the league taking a hard-line stance against public criticism of officials. The incident also highlighted the changing nature of athlete expression in the social media age. Clark's decision to publicize the fine herself, rather than letting it be announced through official channels, represented a shift in power dynamics between players and leagues. By controlling the narrative from the beginning and framing the fine as something laughable rather than shameful, Clark effectively neutralized what might have been a negative story for her image. Perhaps most significantly, the controversy sparked broader conversations about how the WNBA handles its rising stars, with the league experiencing unprecedented growth largely driven by charismatic players like Clark. Many question whether the league's traditional approaches to player discipline needed updating. The incident became a case study in the challenges facing women's sports as they transition from niche appeal to mainstream visibility. As we reflect on this story, it's clear that what began as a simple social media comment had far-reaching implications for the league, its players, and its fans. The fine incident exposed underlying tensions that will likely continue to shape the WNBA's development for years to come. How the league navigates these tensions between tradition and evolution, between authority and expression, will determine its trajectory as it capitalizes on its growing popularity. The story of Caitlin Clark's $200 fine is about much more than a simple violation of league rules. It represents a defining moment in the evolution of the WNBA, a league at a crossroads between its past and its potential future. What might have been a minor footnote in another season became a symbol of the larger dynamics shaping women's professional basketball in 2025. At its heart, this controversy questions how a sports league should balance maintaining authority with embracing the very personalities that drive its popularity. The WNBA finds itself in a unique position of managing skyrocketing interest while maintaining the standards and structures that have guided it for years. The tension between these objectives came into sharp focus when the league's most visible player faced discipline for what many saw as a harmless expression of team spirit. The incident also highlighted the power shift occurring in professional sports, where social media allows players to speak directly to fans without filtering their messages through traditional media or lead channels. Clark's decision to announce her own fine and to frame it as she did demonstrated a new form of athlete agency that sports leagues are still learning to navigate. This genie isn't going back in the bottle, suggesting that the WNBA and other leagues will need to adapt to this new reality. Looking forward, the lasting impact of this controversy may be the conversations it sparked about the relationship between the WNBA and its players. As the league continues to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement and navigate its financial future, the values demonstrated in moments like these, transparency, proportionality, and recognition of player contributions, will shape not just league policies, but also player morale and fan loyalty. If you found this deep dive into one of the WNBA's most talked about moments insightful, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the league was right to fine Clark, or was this an overreach? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content that goes beyond the headlines to explore the real stories shaping the world of sports.